Because that's really what it is. It's the photographs and stuff come through the feed.
Right.
And I was like, what? Because she had like
because she did put it out
stuck
there.
under the bed, like the booty's up in the air with her head stuck under the bed.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the
Hell
consequences
yeah. I
when you
mean,
said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to... That's what my assistant said. I was like, oh.
50 Cent recently came forward with some never-before-seen behind-the-scenes footage, claiming that it was Terrence Howard who handed it over to him, and the footage appears to center entirely around Diddy's alleged wild and outrageous gatherings that have been a topic of industry rumors for years. Terrence Howard has finally chosen to end his silence, and the things he's revealing are beyond shocking. This tea is scalding hot. For years, Terrence has implied that he was quietly edged out of Hollywood's spotlight because he declined to engage in what he described as suspicious, dubious activities that occurred far from the public gaze. But now, with Diddy being hit with a wave of new accusations, it seems like the mask is finally slipping off and the truth is beginning to come to light. People are gradually starting to understand who was truly in control of those elite, private parties hidden behind lavish curtains and luxury walls. And let's be honest, Diddy isn't the only major figure being pulled into this chaos. Terrence didn't hold back. He also took jabs at Diddy's speculated relationship with Young Miami, implying there's far more to that story than anyone assumed. Word on the street is that Young Miami may have been heavily involved in those infamous gatherings too. But what really got folks glued to their screens was Terrence's statement that he caught her doing something outrageous on video, something far beyond what most people could even conceive. This isn't your average industry scandal. It's the kind of revelation that could completely upend the entertainment world. And the craziest part of it all? Terrence didn't even need to be prompted. He came out with this information unprovoked. No one even suspected he had anything on Diddy. Then boom, he jumps on a podcast and starts dishing everything in astonishing detail. He recounted his experience. It lines up way too closely with the shape alluding to for years. So let's dive into this entire situation, the setup, the manipulation, and those twisted circumstances Terrence is now courageously exposing.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to... That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands-off with somebody. A number of producers coming to make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back.
Terrence Howard is claiming he had a first-hand encounter with Diddy himself, and if what he's saying is accurate, then it casts a whole new light on what's actually been happening behind the scenes. According to Terrence, Diddy directly contacted him, requesting help with acting. But once Terrence arrived, he instantly felt that something was off. The energy in the room didn't align with the vibe of someone genuinely seeking acting guidance. Sure, Diddy has dabbled in acting over the years, but nothing on the scale that would demand a top-tier actor like Terrence Howard to show up for one-on-one instruction. Still, Terrence agreed and arrived expecting a standard, professional interaction. But according to him, the moment he got there, the whole atmosphere shifted, the tone changed entirely, and it became obvious that Diddy had something completely different in mind. Terrence wasn't having any of it. He shut it down right away, made it absolutely clear that he wasn't entertaining those games, and left immediately, no hesitation. But it didn't end there. Terrence went even further, alleging that he wasn't the only person Diddy supposedly attempted to pull something with. According to him, every single man who's attended one of Diddy's notorious parties left with a similar tale, and it wasn't just about wild entertainment. It was something far more sinister. He made a daring statement that these men had to sacrifice their masculinity just to be included in the inner circle. These weren't innocent gatherings with a bit of flair. According to Terrence, they were unsettling events that pushed boundaries and challenged limits in ways no one agreed to. And this isn't the first time Terrence has highlighted the hidden darkness in Hollywood. He's been outspoken for years. That he didn't get blacklisted because he lost talent or value. He was pushed out because he refused to adapt to a twisted system that expects men, particularly black men, to compromise their principles and masculinity to stay relevant. Long ago, he opened up about the true reason he stepped back from acting, and it had nothing to do with being exhausted or unable to land roles. According to him, the industry was actively working to strip away his masculinity, and when he pushed back, they branded him difficult and began reshaping the narrative. The same tactic they've used on countless women who dared to speak up, they simply used it on him. So when Terrence announced he was stepping away from acting back in December 2022, it stunned a lot of people. He was still securing major roles, his supporters were devoted, and there were no apparent issues with studios. On the surface, everything appeared fine, but as Terrence now discloses, there was a storm raging behind the curtain. According to him, they kept placing him in scenarios designed to test his principles, scenarios that made him deeply uneasy, and when he stood firm and declined to give in, they gradually but deliberately began to push him out.
When you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being
Terrence
a man.
Howard has been absolutely clear. They didn't just attempt to pressure him professionally, they targeted the one thing he holds most sacred, his manhood. And when he stood firm and refused to break, Hollywood didn't take it kindly. Before anyone could even notice, he was practically wiped out. No major scandal, no dramatic farewell, just silence. Eventually, he resurfaced in the public eye, but he's been extremely cautious with every move since. Now that he's speaking up, he's not holding back. Terrence is lifting the veil on what he describes as the concealed, menacing side of Hollywood. One major issue he repeatedly highlights is the constant, unnecessary pressure placed on black male actors to wear dresses on screen. Never believed those roles served the narrative, they weren't about creative expression. To him, they seemed like intentional traps meant to degrade and gradually erode his masculinity. And he wasn't going to accept that. He said no, and he stood his ground, and the reality is, he's far from isolated. This isn't some fringe theory, it's something numerous black men in the entertainment space have spoken out against. One of the most outspoken has been comedian Cat Williams. In a bombshell interview with Club Shay Shay, Cat criticized Hollywood's tactics, saying they've been running this playbook for years, dangling enormous paychecks in front of men if they're willing to compromise their image or act overly feminine for laughs or shock factor. Cat revealed that he's turned down millions to maintain his dignity, and he warned others that this kind of pressure is far more widespread than most people think. Now with Terrence reinforcing those same ideas, it's clear there's a deeper trend here, and when Cat's interview went viral, the timing couldn't have been better. Terrence stepped up with his own truth and basically validated everything. Remember how people used to whisper that Terrence was difficult to work with or had an attitude? That was the rumor for years. But now, he's clarifying the record. He says he wasn't hard to deal with, he just refused to be degraded. He refused to betray who he was. And that's what got him pushed aside. Terrence dropped a powerful line that really resonated. My dad told me, never take the spine out of your back or the bass out of your voice. I didn't raise a sheep, I raised a man. Stay a man. Then he added, being a man is like a curse now, because the world isn't built for real men anymore. Everything's about blending in. The more successful a man is, the gentler he's expected to be. But Terrence didn't end there. In another interview, he went even deeper, saying, there's a quiet mission to break down the image of strong black men, because strength makes people uneasy. He explained, they're crafting a formula, emasculate men, urge them to give up their sense of power, and make them forget who they really are. He didn't hold back, he said, they let white men retain their strength, but when a black man stands tall and confident, suddenly he's labeled a threat. He said he would never dilute himself just to suit someone else's narrative, and maybe, just maybe, that narrative needs to change instead. According to him, men should be allowed to embrace their power and still appreciate the beauty of women, and nothing about that needs to shift. And now with all the buzz around his recent interviews, and those jaw-dropping accusations about Diddy, fans are beginning to connect the dots. And honestly, it's all beginning to make sense. But this could just be the start. Word from people close to Terrence is that he's still holding back even more shocking information, things that might be even darker than what's already been exposed, and caught in the center of all this madness. None other than Young Miami, Diddy's supposed girlfriend and party mainstay. After Terrence's interview blew up, 50 Cent initially kept quiet. He posted, "No comment, I'm staying positive. God help us all." But that silence didn't last. Now he's teasing some major claims about a wild video clip that could detonate everything. Apparently, Terrence might have captured the footage himself at one of those legendary parties. And what's in it? Rumor has it, it shows Young Miami doing something that's got everyone raising eyebrows. At this point, nothing feels too far out. People have speculated for some time now that she's more involved in these parties than she lets on, and not just as an attendee. Some suggest she was helping coordinate them. Not a bystander. A participant, and there's evidence backing that idea. Like when Diddy's other rumored side chick, Gina Huynh, posted a selfie with him, Young Miami reportedly snapped. She didn't just toss subtle shade, she exploded. Supposedly, she even threatened to have Diddy pull Gina into one of those twisted gatherings as payback. The leaked messages were insane. Miami allegedly wrote things like, "You've been miserable since I showed up. Crying for a baby for 15 years. Just a backup. Diddy gave you scraps when he felt like it. You an eater. And she didn't stop. You cried to Tasha K over a baby. Poor Sushi. I have a real career, you're a known freak. You haven't heard from Diddy since the awards." But the wildest part? She reportedly ended it with, "If I wanted you to eat me, Diddy would have had you on your knees."
Protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Kid, I need no. You here, get your number.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Come on.
Because early on you was accusing me of being...
You would have been nothing but a munch. Not just any munch. But the munch, and that single statement? It had the entire internet in a frenzy. But believe it or not, that wasn't even the most sensational part of the chaos. Supposedly, Young Miami's name surfaced once again when another of Diddy's alleged romantic interests ended up pregnant. And according to several sources, she was threatened and forced into silence. Official court filings from a woman identified only as Jane Doe, who chose to remain anonymous, assert she was coerced into consuming unidentified substances in Diddy's private bathroom. The document states that in July 2022, she traveled to Diddy's Los Angeles mansion at his invitation, and while there, she was forced to ingest an unknown substance. Shockingly, Jane Doe later found out the mysterious substance allegedly contained ketamine, or a blend of comparable drugs, which caused her to lose consciousness, fading in and out throughout the evening. She stressed in her complaint that she never agreed to take any such drugs. What she recounted next was downright horrifying. She alleged that while unconscious, she awoke to discover herself bruised and physically harmed, implying something horrific occurred while she was incapacitated. Pressure her into performing for him, providing her with liquor and drugs until she blacked out, only to wake up with no memory but covered in bruises. And this didn't happen just once. This pattern reportedly continued right through July 2024, but it gets even more disturbing. Jane Doe says she eventually realized she was pregnant, and the supposed father was none other than Diddy. That's when everything began to fall apart. She claims Young Miami allegedly started threatening her, pressuring her to terminate the pregnancy. The intimidation became so overwhelming, Jane Doe asserts it directly caused her to miscarry. The legal documents explain that after confirming the pregnancy and informing Diddy, the coercion began. A woman named Carrie Brownlee, said to be connected to Diddy, began harassing her, insisting she end the pregnancy. Jane Doe claims she suffered the miscarriage shortly after and didn't have contact with Diddy or his associates for nearly 3 months. Here's the twist: Carrie Brownlee is Young Miami, also recognized from the duo City Girls. And judging by her past actions, fans weren't exactly surprised by the accusation, especially since she was allegedly livid when Diddy fathered a child with another woman back in 2022. But if you thought the drama had already peaked, enter Lil Rod's lawsuit, the document that escalated everything to a whole new, more sinister level. In his revised court submission, Lil Rod didn't just accuse Diddy, he included shocking claims about Young Miami as well. He stated she wasn't merely a casual attendee at those infamous get-togethers, she was allegedly deeply involved. And she wasn't alone, he claimed even members of her family were entangled in the madness. One specific episode detailed in the lawsuit left readers stunned. According to Lil Rod, Mr. Jones, during one gathering, Diddy, intoxicated, offered him cocaine. Jones declined and went to use the bathroom, but that's when things went sideways. Reportedly, Young Miami's cousin burst into the restroom, began groping him, and dropped to her knees to perform an unwanted act. Mr. Jones pushed her away and left the bathroom, but it didn't stop there. He claimed she continued following him, stripping naked, and trying to mount him in front of both Diddy and his team. The court documents stated this wasn't an isolated case, it was part of a recurring pattern. In another troubling account, Thanksgiving night, 2022, in Miami, Mr. Jones stated Diddy summoned him and another man, Forrest Taylor, into a studio bathroom. There, Diddy reportedly asked for a $100 bill so they could do cocaine together. Mr. Jones, fearful, claimed he avoided participating by saying he had no money. But Diddy? He kept going and reportedly partook in the same behavior with Young Miami instead, and just when it seems like things can't get darker, Terrence Howard steps back in with even more bombshells. In one of his most serious allegations yet, he accused Young Miami of assisting Diddy in drug trafficking, allegedly delivering substances to him regardless of his location. According to legal documents from Mr. Jones, during rehearsals for the Something in the Water Festival in Virginia, he personally observed Diddy snorting cocaine in his dressing room. But here's where it gets even more intense. Diddy apparently wanted more, but his assistant Brendan had forgotten to bring it. That's when, reportedly, Christina Carorm arranged to have it flown in from Miami, just to meet the demand. That's how deep it allegedly ran, and it doesn't end there. The lawsuit further claims Young Miami wasn't merely a party guest. Along with Jade and Daphne Joy, she was allegedly receiving a monthly payment to act as what the documents described as private entertainers for Diddy. The money was reportedly wired directly from Robin Greenhill and was part of what's now being called a fully fledged criminal operation. At this point, between Young Miami and Diddy is tightening rapidly, and now, rumors suggest 50 Cent is holding on to video evidence that could implicate her directly. And let's be honest, if there's one person who lives for controversy and knows how to drop proof at the perfect moment, it's 50 Cent. With the long-standing friction between him and Diddy, it feels like just a matter of time before he releases something that completely shifts the narrative again. Terrence Howard might be uncovering something much more profound than anyone first realized. And if 50 decides to hit upload? It's game over. So now the big question. What's your opinion on Young Miami being thrown back into the spotlight because of Terrence's revelations? Do you think she's involved more than she admits? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we want to hear everything. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your people, and smash that notification bell so